If you're buying or building a home right now, this price gap is coming directly out of your pocket. In May 2023, framing lumber cost less per thousand board feet than it did in January 2019. The commodity everyone blamed, the one that quadrupled to $1,133 at its peak, had fully crashed back to earth. So why does a 2,000 square foot tract home in Phoenix cost $180,000 more than it did 4 years ago? That question should bother you, because if the thing that caused the problem went away, the problem should have gone away too. It didn't. And the strange part comes next. Costs are still 35 to 50% above 2019 in most markets. The median new home price jumped from $320,000 in 2019 to over $430,000 by 2023 per Census Bureau data, and that's before land. There are actually two separate cost engines running on completely different timelines. Most housing commentary has only ever looked at one of them. That's the gap we're closing right now. The commodity shock was real. Steel framing rose 100 to 150% at peak, copper wiring up 50 to 60%, PVC pipe up 50%. OSB, the sheet material inside nearly every wall, hit prices 5 times its pre-pandemic baseline. The producer price index for all residential construction inputs rose 30 to 35% between January 2020 and January 2023, per the Bureau of Labor Statistics. These were genuine supply shocks, driven by sawmill shutdowns, shipping container shortages, and a simultaneous global infrastructure spending surge hitting the same supply chains. Here's what the recovery actually looked like. Lumber largely normalized. But copper sits roughly 30% above 2019 levels today. Steel framing 40% above. Diesel, which prices every single delivery of every single material, never fully retreated. Turns out the cyclical clock only partially rewound, and that's exactly why lumber crashing didn't bring home prices down with it. The material's baseline reset to a floor roughly 25 to 35% above pre-pandemic, and lumber, the most dramatic story, represents only 5 to 10% of total construction cost. Blaming lumber was always like blaming the garnish for the price of the meal. Now, the clock that most people missed entirely, and then that sounds like a background detail until you see who actually pays for it. In 2006, the U.S. had roughly 11 million construction workers. By 2011, after the housing crash, that number had fallen to about 7.5 million. By 2023, despite far higher construction demand, it had only recovered to roughly 8.3 million. 1.5 million workers left the trades permanently after 2008, mid-career electricians, plumbers, framers, HVAC technicians, and never came back. The industry didn't replace them. A decade of suppressed construction activity killed the economic incentive to run apprenticeship programs. Schools pivoted to 4-year college pipelines. The median age of a U.S. electrician today is 55, a plumber 54. When pandemic demand exploded in 2020, the industry hit a hard ceiling. The Bureau of Labor Statistics counted 300,000 to 400,000 unfilled construction job openings at peak shortage in 2022. Contractors bid against each other for available workers. Labor costs rose 20 to 25% in 4 years. Labor is 40 to 50% of a home's construction cost. Run the math. A 20% wage increase on half the build cost adds 10% to the total before a single nail is more expensive. That cost doesn't stay with the builder. It moves directly onto your purchase price. This clock was running before COVID. COVID just made it impossible to ignore. Building a house is not like building a car on an assembly line where you can pause one station and keep the others running. It's a strict sequence: foundation, then framing, then rough mechanical, then insulation, then drywall, then finish work. Miss one step and everything behind it stops. In 2022, electrical panel lead times stretched from the normal 2 to 4 weeks to 6 to 12 months. A builder in Phoenix waiting on a $3,000 electrical panel didn't just lose the cost of the panel. The framing crew moved to another job. The insulation sub rescheduled. The drywall team disappeared. Remobilizing everyone at new day rates cost more than the original bids. Meanwhile, the construction loan kept accruing interest at rates that had climbed from 3.5% in 2020 to 8 or 9% by 2023. A 6-month delay on a $400,000 build at 8% annual interest adds $16,000 in financing costs alone before any material price changes during the wait. The NAHB documented cases where a component shortage worth $14,000 in direct cost triggered over $30,000 in total project cost increases once carrying costs, remobilization, and schedule compression were tallied. The hidden part is not the component shortage, it's that every delay gets baked permanently into the final sale price you see on the listing. In a sequential industry, delays don't add cost linearly, they compound it. That's the multiplier. And it's why builders couldn't simply wait out the supply shock without the final price permanently resetting higher. Now you have the model. Call it the two-clock model. Clock 1 is cyclical: commodity prices, interest rates, pandemic-era supply disruptions. It does partially mean revert. Lumber proved that. Some materials costs will ease further as supply chains stabilize. Clock 2 is structural: the skilled labor pipeline, the demographic cliff in the trades, the decade of underinvestment in apprenticeships that started in 2009. It does not mean revert on any timeline a homebuyer cares about. Training a licensed electrician takes 3 to 5 years minimum. You cannot fix a 15-year deficit in 2. Use this to kill 3 persistent myths. First, when interest rates drop, building costs will fall. Rates affect financing costs. Clock 1. They do not change labor rates. Clock 2. Second, lumber crashed, so homes should be cheaper. Lumber is roughly 7% of total build cost. Labor is 40 to 50% and still rising. Third, immigration will quickly solve the labor shortage. Skilled trades require multi-year apprenticeships, not immediate deployment. The NAHB's chief economist Robert Dietz has framed it as the 5 L's: lumber, labor, lots, lending, and laws. The first and fourth are cyclical. The other 3 are structural. Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies estimates the U.S. is 1.5 to 3.8 million homes short of demand. That undersupply means builders face no competitive pressure to pass input cost savings to buyers. Savings get absorbed as margin recovery instead. So the next time a pundit tells you housing will get cheaper soon, ask one question: which clock are they talking about? Because knowing the answer determines whether you wait, buy, or build, and how much it costs you either way. If this gave you a cleaner model for reading housing headlines, subscribe. We do this for every broken system hiding behind a simple price tag.